believe in.
Right. Okay. So let's say it was like that. Do you use Office 365?
I do
and
use
you enjoy
Office.
it. And you like it.
Sometimes.
Okay, well then. Because you would have to say that you like it.
Yeah, I mean, I like it well enough
to promote it.
Yeah, no.
So you would say no to $15 million?
No, well, again, $15 million. That's all. That's
Tom.
I don't think any of us can answer that question without actually being confronted.
As your lifelong, well, I should say lifelong, as a friend who's known you for quite some time, I'll take this bullet for you.
Yes,
you'll take the money.
He'll take the 15 million.
I'll take the. Let me.
Yeah,
the weighty burden off your brow.
The 15 million is just exactly.
That's I think for 15 million, it's not even. I think anyone would say yes.
$30,000 and be like,
no, but no, I would not. I mean, $30,000 is not enough to change
$100,000. Like, yeah. I'm just saying, there's probably a line in there that makes you really uncomfortable.
Yeah,
you're gonna buy an island and run broadband to it, and then you'll just basically run.
Because 15 million is enough to just quit. It'd just be like, forget it.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that, but then people who win the lottery always say, well, it's just more money, more problems.
You know what? No. Those problems are because you lived a life of problems. I don't know.
No, actually, I legitimately think more money is more problems. I think people who don't have money rightly say, well, money would fix a lot of my problems, so I'm going to be unsympathetic. But when you get the money, you have a whole different set of problems.
Oh no, I know, and believe me, I'm well aware of them.
It's just that the problems you have when you don't have money tend to be more life-threatening.
Yes, and you know what? I would gladly take 90% of whatever I win and plow it into some sort of community or whatever program if people would just leave me the heck alone with my remaining 10%.
All right. Sarah says she's going to make it work, but you have to be really nice to her.
We're always really nice.
Well, yeah. Just, don't slip from your usual niceness. Into some new not niceness. I mean, yeah. Tinvex got it. He says if you can get 6% interest on $2 million, that's $10,000 a month. Could live on that.
You can get 6. I would love to get 6% interest on my less than $1 million worth of retirement funds.
Sure, but 6% on an investment isn't outrageous.
It's optimistic, isn't it? A little bit optimistic, 6% in the current.
Well, it depends. Like, it's certainly not a bank. You can't just put it in a savings account and get that. But you might be able to get a 6% return with proper management. I think that seems reasonable.
And probably 2 million gets you proper management.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take my 50% fee.
Oh, look who's here.
Oh my God.
Can you hear us or no?
Yep, now I can.
Okay.
Excellent.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
In a minute late. I'm so sorry.
No worries at all. Thanks for making the effort.
Yeah, of course. Let me just give me 1 second. See if
yep.
I can find it.
We're just talking about being millionaires.
Baller dreams.
As
baller
usual.
Dreams.
Oh, neat.
Actually, what we were talking about was the price of our soul.
Yeah, but it's really not your soul. It's just your sense of integrity.
Well, potato.
I think metaphorically speaking, you could call that your soul. We're talking poetic truth, Roger, not literal truth.
When I sign a contract with the legions of hell, it needs to be very clear and succinct.
Once a month, I want to do a poetically accurate Daily Tech News show.
Google owns you. I mean, they don't literally.
No, but metaphorically speaking. Sarah, you went away.
Wi-Fi. Shoot. Yeah, I'm gonna turn down my band.
Yeah.
Sarah's bandwidth is
Hello.
Okay,
All right.
there we go. That seems to be evening out a little bit,
Good.
at least
Do you like
audio-wise.
You like the plant?
It's a very nice
Yeah.
plant, yeah.
I'm actually at this beautiful office at CAA, but it's like if I look that way, it's like I'm looking at people's desks, and I don't think they want me to do that.
Probably
And
not.
if I go out the window too much, well,
Yeah.
it's anyway.
Bite
There's
boards.
lunch.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay.
Good times.
All right, well-
Sarah Michelle Gellar was very nice.
Oh, very nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's lovely.
Well, good.
I would like to know the secret to her looking exactly the same.
Vampire blood.
She's a vampire.
sure. Yeah.
Dang it. How do I do that?
The way to hide as a vampire is to play someone who kills vampires on TV.
Exactly.
perfect
All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and kill all of this stuff that's running. It actually seems okay
all
now.
your
At first, it didn't
enemies.
seem so good, but
Yeah, it seems to have evened out.
okay, cool. Well, thanks for being
Use
patient.
Sarah
We
Michelle Gellar.
are ready to go.
What'd you say?
Okay,
Dave?
I'll
She's the actress that played Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or Buffy.
No,
the
I was
Vampire-
asking what she did with Sarah Michelle Gellar, but I'll ask after.
Yeah, let's circle back to that maybe. Here we go.
A Nicholas Show keeps you in the know. If you'd like to find out more, please go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support and find out how to keep us on the air. Thank you.
This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, February 27th, 2018 from DTNS headquarters in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from an undisclosed location in Century City, Los Angeles, I'm Sarah Lane.
And from a place where it's -4 degrees Fahrenheit outside, Patrick Beja.
I was chilly earlier. You just made me feel really warm. Thank you. Producer Roger Chang is warm as well. A warm person, aren't you, Roger?
98 degrees.
Normal human temperature. That's what I meant. Hey, we're going to talk about Vero, the social media app that you probably have been hearing so much about. Or if you haven't, we'll explain what it is and why some other people are hearing so much about it. But let's start with a few tech things you should know.
Amazon is acquiring Ring, makers of the Ring doorbell, as well as solar security cameras and alarms. The company told Engadget it was excited to work with Ring, and Ring said it would achieve even more as part of Amazon. And no, you aren't crazy. Amazon did just buy a doorbell and camera company called Blink in December.
Blink
Not
Ring.
to be confused with Ring. That's a new one.
The German Federal Court of Justice has ruled that Google is not required to make sure websites are free of defamatory content before linking to them in search results. Really? Two individuals had been attacked verbally on websites and sued Google to set up search filters that prevent future attacks from showing up in search results. Okay.
The court said no, you can't do that.
Yes, thankfully.
The Facebook Journalism Project announced a new project today called Local News Subscriptions Accelerator. Not to speed up the readings of local news anchors, but to help increase subscriptions to local news outlets. About 10 to 15 U.S. newspapers are participating, among them the Boston Globe, Chicago Tribune, San Francisco Chronicle, et cetera, et cetera.
Flutter, which is Google's development framework for iOS and Android apps, is now officially in beta less than a year after it was announced at Google I/O last year. One of the big additions over the past year has been stateful hot reloads that allow developers to change code and see the result in the active app within a second.
All right, let's talk a little more about healthcare. A few weeks ago, we heard about how Berkshire Hathaway and Amazon and another company were teaming up on creating their own healthcare company to provide healthcare to their employees. Turns out another tech company is doing the same thing, right, Patrick?
Indeed. Apple has published a website and job listings for AC Wellness, a healthcare system for its employees. The company has already hired some healthcare professionals away from Stanford. AC Wellness will have 2 clinics, one inside Apple's main campus and another just north. Apple may be able to save money on healthcare for its 120,000 employees by operating the system itself.
This is all the rage, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems to be a thing where large companies with the Amazon one, I just thought it was interesting that Amazon was saying, well, we'll provide our technical expertise to this conglomeration of 3 companies. But with Apple, they're just like, we've got a lot of healthcare expertise in-house. We'll just hire the expertise we don't have, and we'll create some clinics. So I don't know if this is a tech company move where tech companies feel the confidence to do this, or if it's a big company move, because Apple and Amazon also both some of the largest companies in the world, to say, well, at a certain point, you have so many employees, it just makes economic sense to create your own in-house HMO.
I might be getting a little ahead of myself here, but considering that it's Apple specifically, and Apple has a health app, and Apple is very interested in people sharing information, you know, with medical professionals in a responsible way, and Apple wants to help that. Apple also wants adoption, so it's like you get all those thousands of employees that work for Apple. I mean, technically, if they all were to sign up for something like this, kind of working under this program that Apple is pushing for the greater consumer audience, it starts to make more sense. Yeah, sure. Having great healthcare would be probably a really good perk of working for Apple, of which there are others. Working at a spaceship is another one. Yeah. But I think that it's something that could help the company a lot in the long run, beyond just saying, hey, we provide great benefits and, you know, recruiting new workers.
And also an awesome test platform for your health apps.
That too.
Yeah, I can't help but no. I mean, surely the size of the company plays a role in this. I mean, you need scale for this to work. But also, I can't help but notice that, you know, healthcare is very expensive in the US, and it's more expensive than anywhere else in the world, basically. So it's kind of interesting. And looking at it from Europe, it's kind of depressing that companies end up having to say, well, all right, whatever, we'll do it ourselves. Because it's just not, that's the way I look at it from here, but that's not a tech angle. But it's like it's so inefficient that they end up having to do it themselves.
I wonder if it ends up being made available beyond employees at some point. It'll be an interesting thing to watch. Yeah. Something that we aren't the only country that has the problem with, Patrick, is traffic congestion. An AP story on Uber and Lyft got some attention in our subreddit. It quotes Christo Wilson, a professor of computer science at Boston's Northeastern University, asserting that there is a consensus that ride-hailing increases congestion. Uber particularly, but all the ride-hailing companies have sort of touted themselves as a way to reduce congestion because people won't get in their cars. One reason put forth in many of the studies cited in this story is that people take trips they wouldn't have. Even if they have a car, they might not have taken a trip if they didn't have the ride-hailing option. The main reason for preferring ride-hailing over public transit is speed. So it gets you there faster. That might be one reason why they take ride-hailing instead of a train, which puts a car on the road that wouldn't have been otherwise. Another factor is a larger number of vehicles on the roads waiting to pick up passengers. So even though ride-hailing takes people out of their car, it also creates a time between rides when cars are just circulating. On the other hand, a study of London from 2012 to 2015 found that vehicles in London, including Uber cars, dropped slightly there over that time period. Increased congestion in London was not caused by Uber or taxis, but caused by construction and delivery trucks delivering all those Amazon orders to people.
It's certainly, I mean, I'm sure there are many caveats to be added to those conclusions. It might be a time of transition when people finally decide that they don't need their car, or, you know, who knows. But it's certainly a little bit of rain on the parade of it will make cities more breathable and less cars, because that's what the effect it's going to have. That's like, it's getting everyone to take a little moment of pause.
Yeah, it's don't forget, when you add more capacity to highways, it generally increases the traffic, not reduces it, because now that there's more lanes on the freeway, more people decide to drive, and that's been shown over and over again. So it may be a similar situation with ride-hailing.
In a transparency report, Google says it has received 2.4 million right-to-be-forgotten requests since 2014. 89% of those are from private individuals. Most of the rest of the requests come from celebrities and public officials. Google says it complied with 43.3% of those requests. It denies requests when there is a strong public interest in the information or whether alternative solutions exist.
And I haven't. There was a lot of concerns. This is EU based, right? The initiative, and there was a lot of concerns that people could somehow censor information about themselves that would be relevant and important to the public. It doesn't seem like that has happened. The negative effect, if anything, if we want to find one, would be that we're kind of giving Google the reins in deciding which one should be followed, which one should be complied with and which one shouldn't. But yeah, overall, it doesn't seem like there has been a huge amount of negative consequences to this.
It does seem like they waste a lot of time on it too. If there's 2.4 million requests, that's a lot, and less than half of them actually end up being honored. That's a lot of time spent on requests that go nowhere.
Some people might dispute the qualification of wasting a lot of time. That some people might say it's necessary.
I'd also like to know, because there isn't something equivalent here in the US, for example, but there are companies like Reputation Defender and private entities that at least purport to scrub information kind of the same way that this is. So I wonder, the fact that almost 90% of all of the requests come from private individuals, not that surprising to me. I wonder how much this would be taken advantage of in other places.
Yeah, non-government figures like celebrities submitted 41,213 of the URLs, government officials 33,937, and Gizmodo says that that's probably those reputation management firms in a lot of cases.
Facebook is funding a pilot program funding a pilot program by the Institute for Strategic Dialogue to use Facebook Messenger to de-radicalize extremists. The organization created fake profiles to carry out the interventions. 569 people were identified posting extreme content in the UK by scanning public pages and profiles. 76 had a conversation of 5 or more messages, and 8 showed signs of a positive impact.
So you, Patrick, you were interested in this story particularly, and there's a couple ways to look at it. One is it effective if only 8 out of 569 had a positive impact? And the other is this ethical to be out there surveilling people with fake profiles?
Well, I mean, yes, this is definitely a valid question, although this isn't just some random person doing it. It's hopefully an organization that knows what it's doing. I had obviously the same concern with 8 people showing signs of positive impact out of almost 600. On the other hand, you can say, well, it's 8 less people that could have become radicalized and violent. So that's something. What's really interesting here to me is that, again, we're sort of handing over the reins to Facebook, not directly, but still to Facebook, to sort of deal with these issues. If they can do this, obviously we trust them to do the right thing, but could they or someone else be taking this in a different direction? I think it's really interesting how more and more of these things are being managed by the big companies. Yeah.
And Facebook said, yes, the Institute violated our policy by making fake profiles, but we gave them hands-off funding. We didn't want to intervene. So kind of weird. The Entertainment Software Ratings Board, a voluntary video game rating organization, you probably know them as the people behind Rated E for Everyone, announced a new policy for games with in-game purchases. Loot boxes have been a big controversial problem. Some people think it's predatory. Well, the new policy will require any game to have a label that says in-game purchases if it offers, quote, the ability to purchase digital goods or premiums with real-world currency. Problem is, the policy makes no distinction between loot boxes, cosmetic items, or even bonus levels. So almost every game out there feels like it would have to have this label on. Patrick, at that point, is this label actually doing anything?
No, not very much. I mean, yes, it's better than nothing. This was absolutely expected because of the size of the controversy last year. I'm sure people will remember that. And I think everyone reasonable, some people were saying, oh, we have to ban loot boxes. That was never going to happen. Most reasonable people, myself included, was expecting something like this to happen, possibly as a first step. That being said, as you mentioned, at least what would be required would be a differentiation between an item that you can purchase straight up and loot boxes that you need to purchase to get the item you hope you're gonna. I mean, to hope you're gonna get the item you want. That is the key distinction I think that is required. And as it stands, this really feels like the bare minimum effort they can do. And I'm not in the camp of anti-loot box people, but even me, I think this is kind of not ideal as a proposal.
And maybe it's the step they need to take in order to make a useful system. Is like, you know what? We have so many stakeholders. Let's get them all to agree to make a label, and then when we can show that that label doesn't do as much, then maybe we can get them to agree to have sub-labels or something like that. I could see that being the justification for it.
Possibly. I think a lot of people will say this is just them doing the least they can do.
Sure. Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, we have another show, shorter show, 5 minutes long or less. Daily Tech Headlines. Get you everything you need to know on those days that you can't spend the time that you'd like with us. It helps fill the gap. So go check it out. You can get it as an Amazon Echo flash briefing on the Google Home in the Anchor app, or as a good old-fashioned RSS podcast at dailytechheadlines.com. Sarah, tell me about Vero.
Well, Vero, Tom, is actually not brand new. It was launched back in 2015, so it's going on 3 years old now. But suddenly, perhaps even overnight, seems that way, it's the darling of the App Store. In fact, it's the most popular app in the entire App Store, on track to add over 500,000 users in 24 hours on iOS in the US alone. So that's quite a spike. Again, considering that not that long ago, it was like number 45 and sort of languishing there. This is according to data from Sensor Tower, which tracks app analytics. Now, Vero calls itself an ad-free social network that lets you be yourself. Wow, isn't that novel? Finally, we have something where we can be ourselves. The app was created by billionaire businessman Ayman Hariri, who's the son of former Lebanese Prime Minister Rafik Hariri. Now, the son says he started the app because he was frustrated with the privacy policies of ad-based social networks. That would be a Facebook or a Twitter. Although it's photo-based, the app also lets you share things like text or URLs or recommendations for books, TV shows, what music you're listening to, etc. I downloaded the app the other day just to see what all the fuss was about, because I was hearing about it, but I was sort of hearing about it in the way that everybody who's tech oriented as we are and likes to try everything new just so we see how what's it all about. But there's that sort of like, ha ha, wink, wink. Oh, it's the Facebook killer. Yeah, here we are again. And I will say it's a nice app. It reminds me a lot of Path. For anybody who used Path, it sort of seems like, if Path had evolved into some, let's call it like a, Path 5.0 version. It feels like this because there are levels of privacy settings. For example, if I were to say Tom Merritt, and this isn't true, but if I were to say Tom Merritt, not a good friend, not even really a friend, more of an acquaintance, I could give him that label, but he wouldn't know that, right? So it's something that, people who used to use Google Plus would be kind of familiar with. That is powerful, but it's also complicated. And it requires you to do a lot of organization of people in your life. And I don't know, besides the fact that it's a little bit of an app flavor of the week or the month, I wanted to get your thoughts on if anyone has used it and if you share some of my sentiments.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
No, you go ahead, Patrick.
Oh, you're too kind. You're moving up from acquaintance to friend in my view.
Yes. Maybe even close friend.
Well, hey, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Don't rush it.
Yeah, I mean, I like I'm not sure it's that complicated to manage your relationships. It's baked in from the get-go and quite easily so. I think the interface is pretty well done, and it does allow you to then share updates with the different groups, and it's a widening circle. So if you share it with the wider circle, obviously the smaller circle will get the update as well. People can follow you even if you don't connect directly. That's been possible in other social networks. I mean, I don't think it's going to turn into a long-term hot app, but there are some interesting things that it's doing. The classification, for example, of the things that have been shared with you, since you can say, I'm sharing a film or a TV show or a piece of music, or, you know, video games are missing from there. They're saying they're looking into it when I sent an angry email saying I want video games included. So then you can take a look at your collections. So you go there and you can see what every piece of, you know, every music album that your friends have shared, and listen to it if you connect to Apple Music. Apparently it's Apple Music only on iOS at least. And I think there are some interesting things. I don't see it becoming all of a sudden an Instagram replacement, because this is what people are talking about, saying, people are upset with Instagram, so this is going to swoop in and maybe offer an alternative. It's kind of a little bit messy. It doesn't only do photos. So I don't know that it's here to stay, but I think there are a couple of interesting ideas in it.
Well, sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, sure. Just real quickly, I think the most interesting thing about it is not it itself. There are all kinds of interesting things about it that you guys have talked about, but the most interesting thing to me is the fact that it became popular so fast, so suddenly, because people are hungry for a few feature changes. People think they want chronological feeds, and Vero has it. People definitely want less pressure on posts and the ability to more fine-tune their posts in an easy way. People want to avoid fake followers and bots. They want to avoid nasty comments. And whether Vero can actually fulfill on that or not, the feeling that it might be able to is what's drawing people in. So I think that whether Vero or not is the next big social network, whether it's the next Snapchat to come along, is less important to me as the fact that I think this indicates that something is. If it's not Vero, somebody's going to fill this gap, because there is definitely an appetite for it.
I think that the whole, people are upset with Instagram's algorithm and are hungry for the new thing. I don't really get that at all from Vero. I know that some people are frustrated. That's not like a lie, but Vero also, there's a gimmick going on where it says the first 1 million people to sign up get lifetime memberships for free, indicating that it might charge others in the future. But it's also just a way for a bunch of people to say, well, I'll just be part of the first 1 million, so I don't have to pay. It's sort of like how Mailbox put a bunch of people on a waiting list for an app that they didn't even necessarily know that they wanted. They just wanted to be on the list, right? Because all of a sudden it was like hard to get, right? And so you're kind of you sort of waiting behind the velvet rope. So I don't hear a bunch of my peers saying Instagram's dead, what's the next new thing? But yes, there is something to be said about the fact that anything that's new and coming onto the scene, trying to disrupt, sorry to use that term, but in this case it applies, these sort of incumbent huge networks that have been riding high for some time, it's not for nothing. It means that the tools that we have now, as popular as they are not perfect.
Yeah, I agree. It kind of feels like there's something brewing, boiling, and at some point something's going to happen. Another interesting tidbit, which applies to what you were saying, Tom, is you can share text posts. So kind of like Instagram, but it's not trying to go after the Twitter crowd. It feels like it doesn't want that trouble. It doesn't want to have the conversation with all the toxicity that brings.
Side note, Snapchat downloads in the U.S. went up 41%, according to Sensor Tower, to 76% in the week following the redesign, and the average growth of first-time Snapchat installs was 57% when compared to the week before. So even though people complained about the Snapchat redesign, it seems to have worked out for them.
There's no such thing as bad advertising, right?
Thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com and facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow. Let's check in with the thing of the day.
The thing of the day comes from Chris Christensen. He's back with a cool tip for aerospace nerds. I'm looking at you visiting Washington, D.C.
This is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler with another Tech in Travel Minute. If you like technology, especially airplane or aerospace technology, and you're near Washington, D.C., you probably already discovered the Air and Space Museum, which is a great way to spend a day. You get to see things like the Wright brothers flyer and the X-1 rocket. But many people don't know that there is a second location for the Air and Space Museum. Some of you have been there, and that is the Udvar-Hazy Museum, which is out by Dulles Airport. So while the big important historical things are downtown, the big as in large things are out at the Udvar-Hazy. And so that's where you'll find the Enola Gay, the bomber that dropped the first atomic bomb, one of the 3 remaining space shuttles, and the SR-71. So definitely also worth a stop, especially if you're on a business trip out to the Dulles Airport. I'm Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler.
Good tip. Thank you, Chris. Let's check in on the mailbag, Sarah.
We got an email from Bill in Huntsville, Alabama. This is from a conversation kind of late last week. We were talking about cord cutting and the fact that we all have too many options. Oh, I guess it was last Friday. Yeah, it was our roundtable show. We have too many options when it comes to watching things. How do we do it? Bill says, became apparent to me that there's more programming that we can watch since I became a cord cutter 3 weeks ago. I tried a free trial of DirecTV, canceled because I seldom used it. I was surprised that so many channels I thought were cable only are actually available as over-the-air channels. Of course, if you have an OTA antenna, you can put that up and get a lot of that stuff for free. Most evenings, my wife and I watch a couple hours of programming together. The source may be from Hulu or Netflix or Amazon or programs I've recorded. I store my recordings locally. Started doing that several years ago.
Oh, and
the library still keeps expanding despite the fact.
Sarah, you're breaking up there, so I'll finish up the email for you.
Yeah. Okay.
He says, I delete the ones I watch, but my recorded library still keeps expanding despite the fact that we no longer subscribe to cable. Plex does a good job of keeping the library organized.
I agree with you on Plex.
Yeah, we've noticed a few changes in programming over the course of our life. One is that it is imperative to watch modern series in order. They tend to be like a soap opera. That wasn't true of older series. For example, a Kojak episode is not a carryover from the previous episode. It stands alone. The procedural thing, that's very different. Thank you, Bill.
It depends on the series, right? Black Mirror, that's, those are pretty self-contained.
Totally
that's
different
new.
Characters.
But yeah, I think, Bill has a point. I agree with Bill that once I cut the cord. Yeah. It's been a long day. There were certain things where I'm like, okay, how do I watch this particular thing? It's going to be a challenge. But there were other networks and channels where I'm like, oh, this is actually way easier than I thought it would be. And it's free.
Very cool.
Yeah. What's also cool? Patrick Beja. Better than my internet connection, that's for sure. You're cold, but you're also cool, and not a lot of people can say that. Besides bundling up and being a new dad, what's been going on in your world?
You know what? We just recorded a new episode of DTNS Labs Games with Scott Johnson, where we talked about 3 incredible games that came out just this January. The year is off to a great start. And we also talked about the improvements to the Microsoft Xbox Game Pass service. So that's already available for patrons on the Patreon page. And you will get it this weekend. Right, Tom?
Coming up on Saturday. If you're not a Patreon, you'll get it then.
If you enjoy gaming, listen to that.
If, however, you want to get it right now and you're not a patron, you can fix that. Just go to patreon.com/DTNS. We're getting close to the end of the month, and we are more than 1 above the number of patrons we had last month. Thank you so much. Keep it going. Don't let it fall back in the next day or two. But huge thanks to everybody who sticks with us and those new folks who have just signed up. You guys are the best. All the big rewards coming on March 1st that you get every month. Things like your business cards and access to the treasure chest and all that stuff. Be sure to sign up if you haven't already at patreon.com/DTNS.
Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 21:30 UTC. You can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
We will be back tomorrow with Scott Johnson. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Women Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
28 minutes.
How
Nice.
about that? Dang.
We had the pressure on.
Tom, thanks for jumping in at that one point.
It was
that
the only. Yeah, it was the only
good.
time. And,
good.
Yeah.
Because on my end, I've. Well, anyway, we still even talk about it. It's
So,
just-
what were you doing with Sarah Michelle Gellar?
So I produce a podcast called Unfinished Biz. I don't even know if I've ever talked about it on the post show before, or anytime here. So I'm not a host. These two gentlemen who work for an investment firm, not a tech investment firm. They call it CPG. It's a consumer packaged goods. So that's
Okay.
food or skincare or and so on.
All the stuff that's in a box in your grocery store.
Yeah, non-technical things. Yeah, shoes, lifestyle brand, that kind of thing. So, and we've recorded quite a few interviews with all sorts of really, really interesting founders. A lot of them I'm not familiar with, so I've learned a lot because I know a lot about tech founders, but I don't know a lot about, the founder of Perfect Bar and what his family went through to start the business, that sort of thing. And founding stories are just really interesting. Anyway, Sarah Michelle Gellar is one of the founders of a company called Foodsters, Food STIRS. And she was talking to us about their brand. So
Cool.
yeah.
Did you ask her tons of stuff about Buffy? Or did you not want to be that person?
We
guess.
talked about, again, I'm just the producer, so I'm not doing a lot of talking. But they did talk about.
You're breaking up. I'll never know.
You weren't meant to know
the fact that
Patrick.
yes,
You weren't meant
she
to
was
know.
Buffy.
Okay.
How about that?
Well-
I should just say this right now, like I didn't watch Buffy, so I don't ask about it.
Well,
Dun,
Sarah,
dun, dun.
I was kind of just like play it off, and I'm like, you know what? I just gotta live my own truth
Yeah.
right now. So
Just for
there you
that.
go. Don't at me. No, just kidding. You can email me and tell me how horrible I am.
I'm going to tell you right to your face. Just for that, I'm going to go and relieve my wife of the baby duties. I would have talked about this more, but that's it. No Buffy, no Patrick.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
Didn't realize this was
Strong
gonna be so
principles.
dramatic.
We'll need to remember that for future instances where we might need to usher everyone out of the room very quickly.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry for breaking up the family.
Well, actually, my wife might not have, watched Buffy. So
Dun, dun, dun.
into a corner here. All right. You guys have a lovely day.
Yes. Thank you, Patrick.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye, chat room.
Bye.
Did you pick a title for us, Roger?
An apple a day won't keep the doctors away from Silverblade.
That's
Yeah.
your favorite?
Well, there's a couple of variations of the doctor a day and the whole apple.
Nothing about Vero, huh?
It's Vero complicated. And that
Okay.
was the Vero social app. A Vero interesting app.
Oh,
I don't know. The Apple one just seemed to. stand
Yeah,
out
yeah.
to me.
Okay.
But,
Sounds
you know,
good to me.
You have
I
rights
just
of
think it's so big.
overruling or whatever.
Vero's Insta success. Ha! That's funny.
Oh.
Yeah. All
Does
right.
anyone else have a real issue with people who call it Insta?
what?
I don't have
one
an
of
issue
my-
with it,
it's
but I
one of
definitely
my-
don't say it.
It's one of the things that I'm irrationally upset about. I realize that it's irrational.
Wait,
It's my problem.
wait, what's the issue specifically?
When you call Instagram Insta, like I would call it Instagram or I would call it IG if I was writing it. I don't say IG.
Oh.
I would say Instagram, but I would write it. But when people write Insta, I want
That
to
just looks
die.
incomplete to me. It just
It's like
By the way, at the last
I don't
second,
know.
as I was copying the title, I chose In Vero Veritas
all right.
with a
Oh,
question
that's
mark.
good.
I added a question mark. I just wanted to have Vero in the title for some reason. I don't know why.
No, it's fine. It's
well, it's it was the big topic. I actually like Vero. I think it's really nicely done. It's just
I can't wait for it to work
Use it.
for me. Yeah.
We tried to log in yesterday and I couldn't get in.
I was able to log in and post something, but then trying to accept Ryan Ozawa and Ben Howard's friend request took like 10 minutes because it kept saying it had done it, and then it would flip back and go, oh, wait, do you want to accept the request? I'm like, but I just did. And then it would give me server errors. Yeah, they're having issues. So many issues.
Well, sorry I had to turn my bandwidth way down, but I'm glad that the audio was less of an issue. I notice. Oh wait, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. It doesn't matter. I finally found where the Ethernet would be plugged in.
Oh, you're not going to be there tomorrow. You're going to be home. Right?
No. I will be with you at my home. Yeah, I got my cool white Ethernet cable, nice flat one too, and all my little things. So I haven't done the whole, over and under the.
It's kind of tedious,
stuff, but I'm kind of looking forward to it though. I feel like I'm going to make it look really flush and good.
It is. It's funny because I started and like, I don't really want to do this, but by the end of it, I was like, I was having a good time because you feel like.
Right.
This is why
you're home, but you're not.
This is why we're all together, is because we all get very excited about Ethernet cable.
Oh, last night when I was like, okay, let me just, I started to get all, it was like 11 p.m. I'm like, okay, we're not doing this right now, Sarah. But I was all excited about, and then, and I got I got a few different little
things.
I have the adhesives, but then I also have the, the ones that are actually nails. Because a lot of people complain that the adhesives, depending on the paint that you're putting on top of, sometimes they start to not. So I was like, I'll just get like way too many of lots of different kinds. Just work it out. But yeah, that's
you get it. You'll feel accomplished. You'll say like, I could totally. If I needed to, I could just go into the remodeling business and lay out Ethernet cable. Exactly.
And I hadn't even thought about the fact that I didn't mean to buy the flat version of the white cable. I mean, it's not that it was a mistake, but I wasn't really paying attention. But it looks so much better. I mean, it's almost invisible.
It's great. The only thing you need to worry is when you go, you make sure you don't twist it.
Yeah. Because there are a few times where it's like, it's not going to, I'm not just twisting it 90 degrees. You have to do a little flippity flop. So,
but it's a cable, so you can kind of bend it around a little bit.
Right. Yeah. As long as you're not like pinching.
Don't twist the twisted pair.
Twisted Ethernet sister.
That was the spinoff fan from Twisted Sister.
Twisted pair.
Why my shot got.
Oh no, you're totally frozen.
What anything even means anymore? Really? I'm not tiny.
Now you have no vision. Oh wait, no, now you're back.
No, you can't see anything. We could see you.
For anyone who likes the show The Biggest Loser and or fitness, we also interviewed Jillian Michaels this morning. Who I know who she is, but I wasn't super familiar with her. As I suspected, she's my size, possibly smaller, because that's just how it works, as we discussed on the show. I think a post show the other day is like everyone in Hollywood is just small, she has a new startup as well. So yeah, nice gal, lots of energy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let me ask you: have you seen the new Straight Eye or Queer Eye for the Straight Guy on Netflix?
No, but I heard it's excellent. From
everyone
says about that on Cord Killers yesterday. Yeah,
I watched the first episode because a bunch of my friends and Jen's friends were commenting on Facebook like they cried after the first episode. I was watching it's like, hey, it's cool, but I wasn't like teared up or anything. And I was wondering if
you don't have emotions though. See, that's the difference.
Why would you go and say that? It's a very mean thing to say. It is.
And then you start crying because I said that and proving me wrong.
I would short circuit because in reality I'm a robot.
I'm looking forward to watching it. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I've been all on this Frontline kick. Gosh, have you guys seen the latest few episodes of Frontline? That's such a good show.
Frontline is amazing. It is.
I know, it's like I'm acting like I just discovered it. I just hadn't seen it regularly in a while. And there's just been some really good episodes.
Religiously. I watched it religiously through high school.
They've really, they've got access that you're just like, wow. Even in this day and age, it's still really impressive.
It's not even just the access. It's the level of investigative reporting. It's like, man, I remember seeing this stuff on 60 Minutes before it turned into like half fluff.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see, because it's like, hey, this is useful information. I'll admit sometimes I'm kind of scared. It's like, holy crap, didn't realize this.
Yeah. Anyway, if anyone, if you have Frontline episodes to catch up on, I suggest you do so. I think there's 2 of them in 2018 so far. But yeah, back to Queer Eye. The first version of that series, I don't think I watched all of them, but I mean, I watched it and I was like, oh, okay, there's a camaraderie between the guys and I get it. But like, that was a silly show. It wasn't anything where you'd be like, wow, that episode of Queer Eye really touched my heart. I don't remember it that way anyway. Well, now that's what people are saying about this.
We were talking about this. Amos and Bryce and Brian and I yesterday were talking about this. Back then, it was just the fact that you had them on television was a big deal, right? So they didn't need to do a lot in the show to be tear jerking, right? It was more like, wow, can you believe we've got to a point where we can have this show? And now they have to go farther if they want to have that same effect, because just having 4 gay guys do a show about fashion is not unusual now.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I have no.
That's true. It was, at one point the show was so like, wow, like this is a pretty novel idea.
Yeah.
Now people are much more familiar with that, and there's I guess greater depth to be achieved if the production company so desires. Maybe I'll do that tonight. I'm all caught up on Frontline. What else did I watch last night that was real good?
I watched a really good documentary on Netflix, but it wasn't Frontline. It was called Tokyo Idol. It follows this one young girl's trip into becoming an idol in Japan, which is a short.
Wow.
It's a term they use to describe kind of manufactured pop stars in Japan. So like all the J-pop, a lot of the J-pop, not all the J-pop, but a lot of the J-pop bands and stuff. And it was really interesting and also kind of disturbing because of the kind of cult following that these girls get that they need in order to become more successful. But a lot of these guys are like 50, 60 years old. And you're like, I mean, I don't know. As a father, a lot of it seemed kind of disturbing. But good. It was a good documentary. I recommend it if you have
Good doc.
Good doc. Oh, that's a great name for a podcast. Good doc. Where you talk about documentaries. All right. Anything else before I stop the stream?
No, sir.
No, from here.
Thanks,
I did that
everybody.
to make you think that my connection was going badly, but it was just me being weird. Bye, thanks.